Hey there, and welcome to the behind the scenes of the Rustic Songbird Podcast. I'm Lydia Walker from rusticsongbird.com, and I'm taking you behind the scenes of an interview on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this video, but before we get started, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy topics like this, we have new podcast episodes coming out every single week, and the behind the scenes will be here on this YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy this show, consider becoming a patron and supporting Rustic Songbird on Patreon. You can check out all the details at patreon.com/rusticsongbird. All right, let's get into today's show. My guest on the show today is Mella Barnes. She is the founder of the blog Mella Music, and today we're going to talk about how to become a full-time studio musician. And this is something that is a part of what Mella does. She's got personal experience in this, and we're also going to share how you can get started if you're interested in being a session musician, how you can actually make money while making music, which is a new concept to some people, right? But we are going to talk all about it on the show today. So Mella, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I love your podcast. I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much. Well, I checked out your website and your blog, and when I heard about you, I thought, what a great fit to bring you onto the podcast, because this is a topic we haven't talked about a whole lot. Usually it's about the songwriter and releasing your music and touring and that kind of thing. But there's this whole other world of being a studio musician, being a session player or a session singer. And I actually have some experience doing that as well. So I thought, this is a perfect topic to talk about because we haven't really delved into that. But first, let's give the audience a quick intro. Tell me a little bit about how you got started singing and your musical journey so far.
Yeah, I actually grew up in studios. So my uncles and my dad, like I'm an industry plant, I think they call those. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's awesome.
I was just always hanging out there anyway. And so my uncles had a lot of songwriter friends that didn't sing. And so he would always be like, well, my niece sings. So I literally just started when I was a kid. And so I came into it already knowing a lot that I think maybe a lot of people don't know off the top. So a lot of
Sure,
what I
but that
try
felt
to do,
normal to you. Like
right,
that was just the environment you were growing up around. That's so
right.
cool.
And a lot of what I try to do in my blog is maybe bring people up to speed on other things they might not necessarily know about, and try to, you know, I'm not somebody who likes the word competition. You know, we're all in this together. There's plenty of
Yes,
room for everyone to be a session musician. We
absolutely.
just, so I'm not, my goal is to help people, but with that in mind, I do also want to let people know, you know, these are some things you need to watch out for. These are the pitfalls. And there are some people that just shouldn't be session musicians. And I think it's important to know yourself. You know, there are some, I tried to hook my cousin up with doing it, and she just was like, I can't work on songs that aren't mine. I can't tell stories that aren't mine. And that's totally valid. You know, that's perfectly fine for her. I love telling stories that aren't mine because I love helping people, you know, who might not otherwise be able to tell their story. So it's just a matter of what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just inspiring for people to hear about the different opportunities in the music industry that might be different from their idea or their picture in their head of like an artist maybe moving to Nashville and getting a record deal and being on the radio and going on a world tour.
Yeah,
That is a very small amount of people that actually take that path. And there's
right.
all these behind the scenes industry jobs that pay really well and can be fulfilling. And you're creating, you're making music, you're making a difference, and you're putting great quality stuff out there without necessarily being the artist. Maybe your name is on like the liner notes or something, but you're not
Yeah.
like the face of the artist. And so I think it's such a cool opportunity. And if someone wants to do that type of thing, like maybe they're a great guitarist or a great instrumentalist, or even a singer, but not a songwriter and just wants to sing on other people's songs, there's a lot of opportunities to be a session musician. So I think it would be really helpful to break it down of what that actually looks like and how someone could get started
Yeah.
doing that. So what would be your advice for someone just getting started wanting to be a session player or a session singer?
So everyone hates this answer, but social media is key. It is so, so important. And so many musicians don't like to put themselves out there. They don't like to have, you know, what if they don't like the negative comments. You absolutely are going to get negative comments, but you're also not going to get hired if you don't put yourself out there. So, and I notice it's almost like a 4-week cycle. If I stop posting on social media today, I will notice a slump in my sales like a month from now. So it's something you have to grow and keep growing. And again, because I got started in it, I had a head start. I already had clients. So I'm trying to help people who are starting from the ground up, and assuming you don't, but you can also reach out to your connections that you do have. Most people do know other musicians, so you can always contact them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and these are my fees and whatever, and go from there. But really, it starts with your social media presence and just letting people know that you exist and that you're available for work.
Yes, I think that it is simpler than we think. A lot of times we can overcomplicate, having a consistent, like, cohesive brand on Instagram or whatever it is. But really, it could be a Facebook post. It could be a text post. It could be in your stories. It doesn't really matter how you get it out there, but just being very specific. And this is the type of work I'm looking for, and this is how to contact me, or send me a message if you're looking for this. And I think it's a great networking tool to use social media, because you can find people in the industry that are producers or songwriters, and reach out to people individually with messages and say, hey, if you need this specific type of thing, that's what I do. Here's some examples. And so you're marketing yourself, but you're not just putting a lot of different stuff out there. You're being very specific and direct as far as what you can do and what type of work you want. And also, it's a great way for people to see what you can do, like posting videos of you singing or playing and say, this is what I do. And then that could be like an audition tape type thing,
exactly,
where people see what you can do, and if that's what they want, then they'll book you and they'll hire you. And it takes one person watching that one video, and then that happening over and over and over to keep getting booked. So I think that's a really good point for someone just getting started who might not have the connections. You can go out there and find the connections by searching by those titles or those types of people. So go ahead. What else would you say about getting started?
It's so important to put up front that people can hire you and pay you, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, sing this song. Oh wait, I have to pay you money. Like, I didn't realize this was. So make sure you put in your bio or your post, contact me for a quote, or contact me for prices, or you can just post your prices. But there is and I understand it. I understand, like, people don't want to pay for services that aren't going to make them money, but this is what you do. And if you provide a service that's helping somebody elevate their work to the next level, you deserve to be paid for that, whether it's mixing, producing, whatever it is that you do. But it's just, that's a common pitfall that I've seen, is people are like, I'm available to sing your song, and don't mention, like, hire me, actually pay me though. And then
the wording is important. And there's different prices. So if you want to negotiate with them to work in their budget, there's certain things that you can say, like, hey, does this amount fit in your budget? Or what range are you thinking? Like, what do you have set aside for this? Because what you want to be doing is working with companies that already have a budget and have a standard amount, where they could say, okay, for a session singer on singing this song, like, here's how much the lead vocalist gets paid, here's how much the background vocalist gets paid, here's how much the guitarist gets paid per song. I really like a flat rate anytime I do something, just for budgeting and keeping it simple, instead of like an hourly thing, because people could spend 40 hours trying to perfect this one thing, but you're not going to get paid an hourly wage for that, But if you are good at what you do and you can knock it out in 30 minutes, then you got paid a good amount for the time that you put in. And so, I mean, for someone getting started, that practice is important. And sometimes you do want to, reach out and offer to do things for people, maybe collaborate or show them like what you can do, and then offer your paid services. So there's different strategies for that. But I just think it's important to know that you don't have to be doing volunteer stuff for 10 or 15 years before you start getting paid. You can start getting paid from the beginning. And then build that up over time as you meet more people. And music business is actually a small world. It's like, once you know somebody, they know somebody, and they know somebody, and it's all connected. So really, you just need to tap into the networks that are already there. So what does that look like for you? What is a kind of your situation right now as far as being a session musician? What does that look like on your schedule?
Sure. So I struggle with scheduling. I think that's my biggest problem as like an entrepreneur, is I could work 12 hours straight, or I could work like in 30-minute spots throughout the day. So I usually start my morning with singing, go into, I wish my camera was working because I'm actually in my vocal booth right now.
Oh,
So
nice.
I,
So just
yeah,
imagine Mella in the vocal booth right
yeah,
now. That's why your audio is so great.
yeah. And I do have posts if you want to see the booth, or I can even send you pictures if you want to post them.
Oh,
Or,
that would be awesome. Yeah, maybe we can add that to our stories just to get
okay.
that visual.
Yeah. So I start there. I do all of my whatever work I had on deck. Then I edit and comp my own vocals. Some session singers don't, and that's entirely up to you. I just like to give the client as little work to do as possible. So that's just part of my package. It's part of my pricing. So I will then edit and send the vocals. Then is my marketing / business stuff where I am the blogger, the social media person, the, this or that, just trying to keep myself. And that part is honestly exhausting. I don't like, the reason I do session work is because I don't like my name and face out there. But this is just something that I've learned the hard way, is that if you're not on social media, you don't exist in terms of like the public's eye. So that's my afternoons, is just the businessy, not fun creative side. And then typically by the evening, I've gotten some client feedback on the songs that I've sent already. So it's either perfect, we're done, or I need you to make a couple changes, and I'll either make them that night if I'm not exhausted, or I'll do it just the next morning. I'll add it to my day. So that's a day in my life.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it kind of helps to show like it's not all glamorous, and there's a lot
Oh,
of business stuff
yeah.
that goes into it, as far as there's a little time where you're actually making the music, and then a lot of it is communication back and forth and that type of thing. My experience is a little different. I work as a session singer singing backgrounds on country music at a studio outside of Nashville. And so I've been doing that for several years, and I might come in and sing on 10 songs for somebody's album and like do all the harmonies in a couple days. And then, next month I'll sing on another album. So it's not like a full-time thing for me, but it's
Okay.
just like here and there. But I've gotten a lot of really good experience that way. And the producer really coaches me on what parts he wants and what he hears. And I can just, copy it and match the vocals and blend other people. And so I think there's like a humility factor of like just seeing what the client wants, what the
Mhm.
songwriter wants, or whoever it is, like, or what the producer wants, and just deliver whatever they need. It might not be fancy, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It might not be, what you would sound like as an artist, but you're delivering what they're asking for. So you might have to simplify what you're doing, or you might just have multiple takes of it and they can choose which one they like the best. And so I think there's a humility factor of just serving and showing up and doing your best and then moving on to the next thing. And a lot of people think of one opportunity as a make or break, but it's really, I think, the snowball effect of like building up over time, and you're going to get more experience and more practice by doing it. So what would you say about that, as far as, you know, making sure that you're delivering what they're asking for?
Yeah, no, I absolutely, that's another way to tell whether or not you should be a session musician, because I've heard so many people say like, I wouldn't submit a project if it wasn't something I wasn't 100% proud of. And it's like, well, then this isn't the industry
Then
for
you'll
you.
never submit music.
Yeah,
It
because
can't be perfect,
yeah.
unfortunately.
And sometimes the client wants me to do something that I just think is really not what I would intuitively do, but it's not my song. It's not my project. So I get, again, if you're not somebody who wants to let go of your creative control, this will be a tough industry. But if you are somebody who can put yourself aside and say, okay, it's not about me at all. It's like, I always compare session work to any other type of like carpet installation, right? It's not my job to tell you the carpet's hideous. It's my job to lay it down. That's it. And then I leave, because I don't know what your plans are. Maybe you're painting the room, or maybe, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it's not about me. I'm there to do a service to the best of my ability that you as the client love, and that's it. And then I'm done. And of course, like if clients ask my opinion, or if they ask me to do what I feel, then I'm happy to do that. But
Yeah.
if they already know what they want, then it's bad customer service to give them something different just because I feel it's better.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's good to have options too. I think a lot of that communication back and forth could be like, hey, have you thought of doing it this way? Or what do you think about trying something, maybe tweaking this, and then sending them some options would be
Yeah.
helpful, because maybe it is something that you see from the outside that, you could present it and they can choose. And then,
Yeah.
you ultimately go with what they want. But I think as you do more music, you kind of see the patterns and you see what works. And if, even having that conversation of what's the goal with this song? Like if you're going to pitch it to an artist, it probably needs to be a certain way. And if it's a certain artist, you want it to be in their style and how they would sing it and their range. And if that's not the goal though, if they're releasing it as the artist and they want it a certain way, you can totally roll with that.
Right.
So it depends on what the goal is for the song, for sure.
Yeah.
If it's not for radio, then you can make it as long as you want. You can make it with 100 verses and do whatever you want with the song. But, it just depends on where you're wanting to go. And so I think that communication is important, but also just, being professional about it and not getting offended. If somebody doesn't like something, you can just redo it, and so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. A lot of artists tend to wear our hearts on our sleeves. And so if somebody hates the work that you've done, that you put time into, it sucks. It really does. But just removing yourself again and remembering that it's about their project, their final result. And yeah, your name might be on it. It might not. That's something I would recommend negotiating up front. But at the end of the day, it's not your work. It's just something that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a work for hire, so you're getting paid for it no matter what they use it for, which is great. And so let's talk about the business side a little bit. We talked about kind of the mindset and kind of like how you can reach out and start networking with people, having an offer. I think the wording is important, like we talked about, getting paid right away. And a lot of this can seem daunting at the beginning, as far as like, do you need invoices? Do you need to email people? Do you need like a link for people to pay you? Maybe you need to set up a PayPal or a Venmo or whatever it is. And so what does that business structure look like for you, since you're working with multiple clients and have different projects every month?
Yeah, I on my website, I have a spreadsheet template that I use to keep all of my projects organized. And it's kind of like, it tells me who the client is, where I'm working with them, like what platform, what the song title is, and what the status of the project is. Like, do I need to edit it? Do I, so that's, it's free on my website if people want to go check that out. But I write whatever works for you, just to keep your, you need to keep track of where you're at with your projects. Because for me, I'm at a stage right now where I have probably 10 projects a day. So it's very easy to be like, oh, I totally forgot about this person, so having that list is not an option for me at this point.
Yeah, so you have that as a template where people can go and get it, right?
Yeah.
So they can fill out their own information for their own projects. That is so cool. What a neat resource, because I think as creative people, we're not usually the spreadsheet type of people. And I'm learning to be a spreadsheet person and realizing there's this whole other side of my brain that I haven't been using. And now I'm like really excited about analytics and data and like understanding the business side, because for so long I was focused on the creative side, and now I see how they come together, and I'm like, everybody needs to know this, because I want musicians to get paid for their work. I want them to get paid for their art. And sometimes it's really just as simple as asking, or like sending an invoice and following up and having, the correct link for people to pay your PayPal, or there's things like that need to be in place. And even as far as like royalties, when you're releasing music, there's ways to get paid as the musician on songs. You had like the musician performer royalty and things like that. And so I think it's important to have your business stuff set up so you can get paid on the front end and the back end.
Yeah.
So, so what's your encouragement for musicians that are wanting to, start getting paid for their music, and maybe they don't know how to explain it, or they don't even like see their own value as far as what they're presenting?
So much of it is just starting. And I know that's such a big leap for a lot of people to do, but what's hard is that I don't know everyone's client demographic. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, it could be different for everybody.
Right. So for me, it's older male songwriters, because they need a female voice. They obviously need to. So my demographic tends to hang out on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you do mainly EDM music, you're probably not going to be on Facebook a lot, so it depends on what clients you're targeting, but then I think you'll find eventually your clients will find you. But unfortunately, it's an eventually, right? You just have to put yourself out there. In the beginning, especially, you have to be all places at all times, and it can be quite overwhelming. And that's when I think a schedule is so helpful, to remember to make a video, post it everywhere. Don't just post it on Instagram story, post it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, because you don't know where your clients are right now. Once you figure it out, then you can kind of funnel your attention in one direction.
I really like that you said that, because you don't have to make completely brand new things for each social platform, but just making sure it's available in different places. Because I mean, I believe in the power of one. If one person watches it, they might send you an email and book you. And so you want to get it out to as many people as possible so that the right people will see it and they'll act on it. So it might be LinkedIn. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that are looking for professionals. And so if you're selling a service or you're doing something like that, LinkedIn's a great way to find people that are connected with companies and business. People are just more professional on that. So maybe your target demographic is on LinkedIn. Maybe it's in Facebook groups. Maybe it's like finding the groups of people and the networks of people that are already, doing this every day, music makers, producers, songwriting groups, looking for things like that where that person congregates. It might not necessarily be like your group of people, like who you're normally hanging out with, but looking for those clients and figuring out where they're going to be. So I think that's really, really good advice. And just having the confidence to put yourself out there is huge, of just saying, hey, this is what I can do. And this is what I want to do for work. And let people know how they can contact you, I think is a huge step. And so people are going to be miles ahead if they just like are intentional and plan and put it out there. There's a lot of people that think about doing it that never even start. So the starting is really important. And then it's just keeping it going and keep showing up.
Right. And that it really is a long form strategy. I didn't start out certainly doing it full time. It was something that I started as a kid, and then I just finally took a leap. But even then, even after taking that leap of deciding I wanted to do it full time, it was just like starting any other business. It was scary at times. There were times when I had no work and I had to just really keep my head down. So, I definitely don't recommend quitting your day job and doing it all right.
Maybe on the side for a while. Build it up over time.
Right. So, but it really is a lot of trial and error, and it's based on your area of expertise, your client base, which is going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing to, know who you are and what you're good at. And so you're not trying to do everything. You're not trying to be like the best guitarist and the best mandolin player, and you can sing background vocals if they need that. Like you could be a jack of all trades, but you're not going to be excellent at one thing if you're scattered and spread thin. So just knowing what you're good at, where your strengths are, and just really honing in on what your expertise is going to stand out.
Yeah.
So like if you say, I am, a country background vocalist, then people know exactly what they're getting when they say that. And if you say, I'm a classical guitarist, then they know what style, they know that it's that instrument. Or if you want to do any other type of thing, maybe you're not an instrumentalist and you're a singer. And so you just focus on different packages that you can do as a singer. Like there are things, even not singing, you could do voiceovers, or you could do like humming or like weird sounds, because some like hip hop will want samples and beats and things of just different human sounds that they can then digitize and make into things. So like there's so much opportunity, but it depends on what genre you want to be in, what you're good at. And then I wanted to ask you too, like you talked about being in your vocal booth and like having your own studio where you can send your vocals. So what does that setup look like? I'm guessing it's probably pretty simple.
Yeah, I built it with my dad. My dad and I built it together. It's a weekend project. I'm very proud of it. But you made a great point though, because you said you don't even do it yourself. So if you're somebody that you're intimidated by this because you feel like, well, I don't know how to record myself, you don't have to. You just need to find a studio that will work with you, and your clients need to understand that your turnaround time might be a little different. Just communicating with the client is important. But for me, I have my vocal booth, and it has I have one microphone that was very, very expensive. It was like an investment thing that I made because clients do ask about your gear occasionally. If
So you want a really good mic, just to make sure you capture the sound in the best quality that you can.
Right. And I always make sure to prominently feature it in my videos and stuff to be like, hey, look, this is what I use, so whatever you've got.
Top notch.
Yeah. So, but if you work at a studio, then you can just say, I work at a full grade professional studio, which is probably, a lot of clients would probably prefer that, to be honest. But I guess the way I would pitch myself is I do it all in-house, quote unquote, and I have a faster turnaround. So like you and I, even just the two of us both doing session vocals, we have totally different wheelhouses, and they both work for some people and they don't for others. So it's just so interesting that like, we really are not, there's no competition between anyone listening to this, anyone curious about it. It's wide open for everyone.
Yeah. And if you're good at what you do, the thing is, then once you do have some clients and you've got some work going, then they're going to share word of mouth. You're going to learn, you're going to see that networking in real time, because as soon as they post the song or they share the song, people will say, who did your background vocals? And then they might book them. I think a personal recommendation goes so far. And if you are working with a producer and you get in with them, they see that you work well, that you're a nice person, and that you show up on time. You don't even have to have the best voice, but like if you're professional and like kind, that goes a long way. And so they can see you do your work, so you could have a few projects, and then they'll start recommending you. Or if you can work with a producer and just say, hey, I'm available to do more of this, I'd like to do more, and then they'll call you back. And so you might not have to have tons of clients. You might work with one studio or with one producer and just, do all of their background vocals, and so there's opportunity to do it that way as well, where you're not the one always looking for clients, but you're like making connections with the producers and the people that are getting clients.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great tip too. I do it all myself, so I haven't, like, that's a totally different thing, but yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. What is your take on going through a service like Fiverr or something, where you put up a certain package where you can do like voiceovers or backgrounds or something? Have you tried that at all, or do you recommend that as if people are trying to look for clients for the first time?
Yeah. So I have, I've been working on writing a piece on my I'm not a fan, to be honest. I am on Fiverr. I have a profile. The thing that I don't like about Fiverr and other similar types of boards, they're algorithm based, and they're based entirely on how much you interact with potential clients. So like if you respond to messages within 5 minutes, you're going to be at the top of the food chain. But there are so many messages that are just creepy or gross or insulting and don't deserve a response, and I don't want to waste my energy on that. So I'm very low ranked in terms of, it looks like I'm very unreliable according to Fiverr, but really it's just I won't respond to people who don't deserve a response. So, for some people, I don't want to.
That's a good tip. What to avoid, what not to do.
Anybody who says, hey, cutie, in their opening message for me, you're not getting
delete,
a response.
Right. Yeah. Don't respond. Yeah.
And I actually have written them about this, like trying to say, like, I understand you want to promote people who respond to stuff, but you're creating an environment where, I don't want to say especially women, but I feel like women have to respond to things that we shouldn't have to. And I don't think that's fair. I just don't. You're punishing people who refuse to interact with people who shouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's really good to just say here with that conversation is that when you are trying new things and putting things out there, it is okay to make a pivot and make a change. And like, if you sign up for Fiverr and you're getting like negative messages or like inappropriate messages and stuff, you can shut that down. You can do something else, use a different website, use a different setup. You don't have to take that at all. And so like maybe a LinkedIn thing would be more professional, and you can actually contact the people that are looking for it instead of putting it out to, on Fiverr, people are usually looking for something cheap. They're looking for, things that start at $5. And of course that's not not going to make a living right away unless there's a lot of volume. But then I have seen people say like, I'll do this for $5 and then I'll do this for $50. I'll do this for $100. So there's ways to like build up the packages there, but you might have to filter through some of those messages. And if you're not willing to do that, then you can definitely take another route and that would be fine. But I thought I'd ask you about that in case you had used it, because we haven't really mentioned that as far as like freelancing of putting yourself out there. But I like your setup of just putting yourself on social media, like having a link to where people can work with you, having it on your blog and available. So when people find you, they go directly through you and you can make that customer experience what you want, which is great. Tell me a little bit about your blog, mellamusic.com. How did that come together? How did you start the blog and what type of topics do you cover?
So that's another thing I was going to recommend, but I feel like it gets super overwhelming when I say also create your own website and create a blog and post 3 times. So social media is fine if you're just starting out. I do recommend a website though, even if it's just a landing page, just of like, here's how to hire me, because SEO and Google are still very, very important. And so when people search for session classical guitar player, you know, you want to be somewhere on the first page. I don't currently know if I rank on the first page, but I know that people find me through my website. So that I started, man, the website has been through multiple reformatings and multiple, so I started it probably when I was in my teens and I've just kind of grown it over the years. So it's been just a trial and error thing. But once I realized like how many people I was getting through my website, I learned that like, okay, so people are coming to me now, so I can back off a little bit on social media, which is super helpful because then I'm just focusing on the one place, and then you create content that you post on all of your social media. So it's kind of like a feeding itself cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. So what topics are you covering lately? You talked about writing an article there, but on your website, you do talk a lot about session music and what that looks like and how people can get started. So I think there's a lot of helpful things that are already there. So where would you recommend for people to start when they go to your website?
If you go just to mellamusic.com, there actually is a start here page. So I would just go there. It's where like my most commonly asked or most questions that people ask, and then I have posts to those. But then I mean, I try to niche down into actually communicating with potential clients and potential session musicians. So it just depends on which one of those you are. And I don't think my start here page is geared toward both of those. So that's a good weekend project for me. But I have categories on my blog. So I would just find the one that appeals to you and then just through there. Right now I'm working on a series for session singers about how to imitate different singers, because that's one of my most common requests is like, can you sing this like Amy Winehouse? So people ask, well, how do I even do that? So I've got video tutorials and posts on my website of how, like, actually, here's how you change your mouth shape. Here's how you elevate your, you know, so that's what I'm working on currently, is just a series on how to sound like different people.
Oh, so fun. Yeah. And as somebody that's, you know, if you're trying to blend with other voices or do a certain style, then you have to kind of change and morph into that. It's like kind of like acting. You take on that character for the song. So that's so funny. One time I was singing like a high harmony on a bluegrass song, and they really wanted like nasally high harmony, and they're like, it sounds too pretty, like it's too airy and breathy, can you sound more nasally? And I was like, sure. So I literally plug my nose and I sing it like this, and they're like, that's perfect, that's exactly what we wanted. I'm like, whatever it takes, you know. I'm not too proud to like plug my nose and sing nasally, so sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
That's perfect. Yeah, that ties into what we were saying before, because that's probably not something you would do on your own work.
Right.
But hey, if they're happy, then cool.
That's so great. Yeah, you mentioned several things as far as like getting your music out there. And I think having an online presence, having a presence for your music online is so, so important. And it can look different ways, but I see it as like building blocks. Like you're doing something every day towards your music. So it doesn't have to happen overnight. It's not something that's going to be like, you're not going to have your website and all your social media and everything set up in one day, most likely, unless you have some experience doing that or have people helping you, which is totally fine as well. But I think it's great to have your own website that can be found in search and where people can see examples of your music, because you own that space. You can create what you want it to look like, and you're not relying on social media. Like with Facebook right now, people probably aren't going to see it unless you're running ads to those people, because of the algorithm. Maybe 2% of people that actually like your page will see what you're posting, and 2% is not very many people. So,
Right.
but if you have a website where it's bringing in traffic, bringing hundreds of viewers or thousands of viewers a month that are looking for that specific thing, that's really, really helpful. So I would say a website is a great way to start, especially if you have a service like this where you're wanting to bring in clients all the time. It can also work to promote your music as well if you're ranking for those categories of like that style. And so there's ways to do that. That's probably more advanced stuff, but just knowing at the front that putting something out there, having your social media pages set up, having a website set up, is going to help you in the long run. And then earlier you mentioned like being everywhere as far as like making a video, posting it on all the platforms. That's great. Video is also awesome right now for all the algorithms. So that's a good thing to try, even just videos with your phone. Put that everywhere because all the platforms like video right now. And it also just connects with people in a better way than just text or images. So I would recommend that as well. But I want people to know how they can get in touch with you, follow what you're doing, and read those blog posts and see those videos that are coming out. So what's the best way for people to connect with you online?
At mellamusic.com, and then all of my, on the homepage, you'll see all of my social media links. So however you want to link with me, I'm always happy to answer questions. Session singers reach out to me all the time for different questions. I might not always respond right away, but I will do my best. And I always provide as many resources as I can. I really want to help people do this because it's my whole life and I love it. And I love helping other people do it too.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you talking through some of the behind the scenes just to give people an idea of what it actually looks like, what your thought process is on it, and encouragement for people that are getting started. So I would recommend everybody check out the blog, see the different posts that Mella has written about being a session player, session musician, session singer. All of those are great keywords, by the way. I was just thinking, those would be great keywords. That's my analytical mind happening because we were just talking about SEO and websites. But, go check out Mella's website. So it's mellamusic.com. And you can see what she is up to. And I really appreciate you being open to questions as well, because I think it is helpful to talk to people that are actually doing it and get their recommendations. So thanks for your time, sharing some of your story and some of your tips here today. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Real quick, I want to say a big thank you for watching this behind the episode here on the YouTube channel. And I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel for more topics like this coming soon. We have new episodes of the podcast every single week, and share the behind the scenes right here on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. Also, if you enjoy this podcast and want to show your support, consider joining our Patreon community to support us on a monthly basis. You can check out all the details at patreon.com/Rustic Songbird. That's patreon.com/Rustic Songbird to become a patron today. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.